Toure, you've counseled couples through the good, the bad, the brutal, the ugly, the heartbreaking, and you've seen firsthand what really happens behind closed doors. So, what do you wish we women knew about men that could have saved so many of those relationships from falling apart?
Men are a lot more needy, let's start there, than most women believe. Men are complicated. You always hear, men are simple, women are complicated. But the reality of it is, men are very, very complicated. The issue is we're just not in touch with what's really going on the inside of us. And so it looks steady, it looks calm, it looks strong, but really it's complex. And I think that a woman can somehow make him feel safe enough to begin to peel back the layers of tough, strong, to get past all of that and get down to the reality of this man's soul and what he is facing and what he needs. What they will get in a friend, in a brother, in a spouse, in a partner, because they gave him permission to not be okay, will blow their mind. But a lot of men, there is this unspoken weight that I've got to be independent of anyone else. The strong provider, the strong protector, the strong sage of life. It is not quote unquote manly to say I don't know or I don't have the right answer. And so we're carrying all of this weight, and men haven't historically been affirmed in who they are. And so they're always seeking this identity of strength, of having it all together. Who do I need to be to attract the right mate? Am I enough? There it is. People think that women are the only ones that wonder if they're, no. Men look themselves in the mirror every single day and say, I'm enough. And it plays itself out in big cars, big houses, big jobs, and big mouths, oftentimes. All to distract, subconsciously, to distract from the fact that inside the question, the begging question and the craving of the soul is, am I enough? And I think that women in particular, even more so than men, have the opportunity to say, hey, I see you. I know you're a man. I know it's rough, but I'm telling you, you are enough. Because the hardest person for us to see is ourselves. It's ourselves. For example, even me, like we've got 6 kids together, Sarah and I. We both work, we both do well, we both contribute to our house, the economics of our home. But at the end of the day, in my mind, even still, it's on me. It's on me. I still carry this weight and this feeling that if I am not a strong, visionary, progressive leader, advising, counseling, providing, encouraging, inspiring. And so we carry this weight, and it's hard.
There's a few things you said there. You're like, just tell a man, that he's enough and explain why. The problem is, you can tell a man that if he's like you now and is open to hearing it. But you can imagine a world where the guy's like, what the hell are you talking about, woman? Get out of my life. Like, like, what's this craziness?
I know I'm enough.
Yeah, exactly. I know I'm enough. That's so perfect. So take me back to what it actually looks like to be that type of guy that's needy but can't vocalize it.
So we have to start with everyone, men and women's fundamental need. Who am I? Am I safe? And ultimately for men, am I enough? In my own context, I single parent home, knew my dad. My dad, ex-Vietnam vet, so he was like a really, really tough person. And because my mom was raising me, because they weren't married, they never married, and she was raising me, and she's raising me in Watts. When I did have interaction with him, he was what I interpreted as extremely critical and extremely hard. And what I didn't realize at the time was that he was just trying to prepare me for his perspective of manhood. He's like, your mama's raising you, you're getting ready to be a mama's boy. So in this 30-minute visit that I have with you, I gotta beat this the snot out of you to instill in you what he perceived it would take to be a man. But the point that I'm making is this was a shaping. And it didn't just happen. This was a shaping, and what was missing was affirmation and validation along the way. I think for me, it was just never hearing I'm enough, never getting there. And so now you fast forward and you enter into a relationship, and you are carrying major insecurity into that marriage. And oftentimes, if you're insecure, what do? You find somebody you can dominate. Let's just be honest. And you look for that personality that will make you feel like more because they have subscribed to themselves being less. And so it seems like it works because the woman who thinks that she is less wants somebody to drive and take charge and all that. And so it feels like it's working, but really what we're talking about is not just toxic masculinity, but a toxic situation of codependency.
There was one thing that you said that I really want to hammer home and ask you actually deep on. You said that your dad didn't want you to be a mama's boy.
Yeah.
And so in 30 minutes, he would do this abuse to, let's say, toughen you up.
Yeah.
What do you think that change would have been? Like, would you have been a loving, kind, generous, sweet son, and instead you became a masculine, dominant man?
Yeah, that's a phenomenal question. So for me, if my dad was mature enough to respect the value that the mother's touch would have on a son's life, because we need both. We need nurturing. We don't just need, prepare me for the battle. Yeah, we need to be prepared for the battle. We need to be smart. We need to be strong. We need to be, sophisticated in our observations and everything. But we also need the balance of mom. And so I think that, back to this idea of a mama's boy, even when you hear that now as a man, you almost want to, if you hear somebody call you mama's boy at the gym, in the locker room, it's an insult.
Oh.
But isn't that saying I'm loved? I'm wanted, I'm valued. And so some of these gifts that are given to us to affirm us and to settle us because of this false narrative about what it means to be a man, we actually lose a gift that helps to shape us so that we can be the appropriate counterparts of the women that are in our lives.
Everything's just really come together for me. This has been beautiful, by the way. So you started with the neediness, like men are actually needy, but they don't appear it, and breaking down your own story with your mum and your dad. Now when I'm thinking about you need love and affection from your mum, because let's say you're sad, you've had a hard day at school and boys are picking on you or whatever, and you want love, affection to feel seen, but your dad's voice is in your head, right? Saying, don't be a mama's boy, don't be a mama's boy. So what do you do in that moment? It teaches you to not say what you need.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we'll be right back with Toure Roberts. But for 1 second, are you struggling to build your confidence, to set boundaries in a relationship, to stand up for yourself, to feel like you have a freaking voice? Then smash that subscribe button down there so you can get notified every single time an episode comes out. Because, my homie, you are not alone. We're here to build our confidence together. So smash that subscribe button to get notifications. Now, back to the episode.
So Sarah and I, in the first year of our relationship, and we had the same disdain for the notion of being needy for different reasons. And I remember...
Do you remember the reasons? I love that they were different.
Wow, this gets heavy. So for me growing up, to trust a woman was weakness. I mean, I grew up with guys that would get tattoos, literally tattoos on their body that says, trust no female dog. I mean, and it was, you were celebrated for, that's right, don't trust no, literally don't trust no, witch with a B. And then the challenge is, this is in your mind that women aren't trustworthy, that they are, you can't trust them. And I grew up in a neighborhood and we all had all kind of names for women in the neighborhood, which is sad, which probably has a lot to do with why some of them responded the way that we were defining them as, because we said this about them, which is interesting. So even though I was married, and obviously I had to trust a woman to put a ring on it and to commit my life, but yet and still the residue of that mindset shaped by the men that were in my life as I was growing up at the time had me in this relationship needing my wife. We had some sort of fight and we just couldn't connect. And neither of us wanted to say that nasty 4-letter word, need. And we both were feeling it. Our eyes, our hearts are about to explode. And I can't remember. I think she broke the ice because we just couldn't. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you're trying to find your way back to each other. You love each other. You've got a wonderful thing together, all the reasons why you got married. But you hit a wall. Mm-hmm. And we're frustrated and our egos are just soaring tall. And I think she broke down and she just looked at me. She's like, I need you. And I said, I need you too. The honesty, the honest, transparent, mutual humility that was initiated by her, I'll be honest, healed it instantaneously. Right there on the spot. We didn't have to have a long conversation. We didn't have to have counseling. We didn't have anything. Just acknowledging that we need each other. And for me, as a man, and I was definitely a provider at that time, and with this history, had to break down and say what the boys on the block, what my dad, what anyone who from his grave, he was gone. From his grave, he probably would have rolled to hear this young man say to a woman, I need you. And that was a breakthrough because it taught me that to need something from someone that God has placed in your life, it's not a sin, it's not a curse word. And vulnerability is an area that is really tough for men. But I think that with the right environment, the right trust, she wasn't gonna take that and post it on Facebook.
Something you just said that I want to follow up on. You said vulnerability isn't easy for a man.
Oh, no.
So if vulnerability isn't easy for a man, how does that, going back to the very first question that I asked, that if you could give your wisdom to women that are listening right now, because look, relationships are 50-50. So please, I don't want anyone misunderstanding. The man has to also take ownership, 1,000%. But I go, what is the work we can do? What is the work I can do as a woman to show my husband that I'm here for him throughout our lives, as we grow, as we change, the navigation, like I'm here for it all. So going back to also the opening question, what are the things women can understand about a man's vulnerability that if we knew could actually help save the relationship instead of break it?
So one of my daughters came to me and she's like, and she's got someone that she's dating. And she's like, Dad, he's great, but he won't be vulnerable with me. And I can just listen to the tone that I say, but he won't be vulnerable with me.
That's so true.
And I love, she's my angel, she's my princess. But Dad, he won't be vulnerable with me. And I'm like, oh, I already see the problem. Right?
You're like, say no more.
I can tell by the way you asked that question. I already see the problem. But I listened, I shut up because I've learned. I shut up because I didn't want her to shut down. I said, okay, tell me more. And I said, well, what does that look like for you? Well, he shuts down and I'm asking him. I said, do you ask him to be vulnerable? She said, yeah. I said, mistake number one. Don't ever ask a man to be vulnerable. You create a safe space and you make him feel seen and loved. And you say, and you don't do it because you want something. We'll pick up on that. You just do it because it's good, just massage the environment of safe. Just work that thing. And it might take you weeks and it might take you months. And so I said, you can't make a demand on his vulnerability, but what you can do is you can continue to make him feel seen, loved, nurtured. For example, she said, I know he was going through something. I could just tell his energy was different. And so I pushed him, I pressed him on, I said, mistake number 2, baby. Come here, dear. Come sit on daddy's lap. Let me talk to you.
But what are we supposed to do? Because guys will normally bury it and won't say a word. So as a woman, if you don't press them on it, they're just going to go silent.
I know, but there's a way to press without it feeling.
All right, how do we press without them feeling it?
What I told her was, I said, you're not wrong to recognize that there's something going on with him. I said, if you know that he has an issue with being vulnerable, and that's just his personality, now you got to be smart. And so you can tell him, hey, baby, are you okay? Oh, yeah, baby, I'm fine. Okay, well, let me know if there's anything I can do for you. Let me know. I just love you. I'll be praying for you. And then move on. You don't have a need. He doesn't feel like, oh, my God, she's going to make this a thing. And you keep doing that. And then after a while, slowly but surely, once we know that this is not like something that you're going to judge me on, and I'm not talking about what I share, I'm talking about the fact that I don't share. Because we get judged for not sharing. The moment that someone's judged, they shut down. So if I'm not sharing and you judge me for not sharing, you just move further and further away from me sharing.
Oh, I did that recently to my husband.
Did you?
Yeah, I basically was like, you need to tell me about your emotions. I was like, and I even said need.
Oh,
like,
God.
That's a fact. I've been together with literally, and you saying that just made me realize.
We are all guilty. It's just safety. It's safety.
I love that so much. So I've got a follow-up question now.
Right.
This is so good. If you were to give your daughter then a list of these are things you should probably never say to a guy because he will perceive it in the wrong way. What are the other things that maybe you see that women fall into the trap that actually land differently on men?
Never say, I wish you were more like. Or why can't you, no, here's a better. Why can't you be more like? Now it sounds innocent and harmful, but first of all, you just brought him into comparison. Secondly, you said, why can't you be? To be is a huge thing to request. To be, now we're talking identity. Now we're talking agency, right? I may not have the capacity. Now I'm offended because you're telling me that who I am is not enough. And that not judge thing I have to come back to, because sometimes we don't have the emotional capacity to be vulnerable. So you're asking us for something that we literally cannot give you. And then we're judged about it, which makes it worse. It's like judging someone for being themselves.
Wow, that never dawned on me.
Yeah. And if you say, well, you need to go talk to somebody, now I'm stupid. Now the man who feels like he needs to have all the answers now is stupid because I don't have the emotional capacity to give you what you're asking for, and I didn't come up with the idea to go and do something about it. Now I'm judged and I'm stupid, and now I'm a little bitter. So safe is the word. I was talking to my friend, and Devon is one of my best friends in the world.
I love Devon.
And we were having a conversation once about relationships, and I said, I lay my head in Sarah's lap and go to sleep every single night because she's my safe place. We've been together for 11 years. She gets vulnerability out of me because she's my safe place that unfortunately my previous relationship, even though we were together for 17 years, never got because I never felt safe. Not that she's not a bad person, she just the tools to make a man feel safe. And let me say this is important. Not every man requires the same things to feel safe.
Yeah. I think it would be important to kind of assess or try to create that safe space for a man in their lives. And so if you had to list a few, what do you think that we can try?
The first thing is I think that we need to know that you think very highly of us, as is. Like, as is. Acceptance for where a person is, if the relationship is rooted and grounded and built on that, is actually better than better. If I know going in that you think highly of me, that's the first thing. I need to feel like you think that I am the most incredible person there is. I need you to think that I'm smart. Secondly, I need to know that you know me. I need to know that you either understand me or are deeply committed to understanding me, not to changing me, not to getting your point across, not to getting something out of me, but that you understand me or are deeply committed to understanding me. I think the third thing would be, I don't know, no matter what, I feel safe because no matter what I share, no matter what you see, you're going to accept me. And that's relationship equity. That takes time, but I need to know that. And then fourthly, and I guess it's maybe similar to the third one, that you're not going to judge me. If you want honesty, I need to know that I can be honest with you and not be judged. You know, for me as a person of faith, my whole relationship with God, the reason why I even have a relationship with God that is open and vulnerable, is transparent, is because I believe that God is love enough to see it all and not change God's perspective about me. Mm-hmm. And so I think fourthly, I need to know that our roots are so deep, our roots of love are so deep into the ground that no matter what comes up out of this vulnerability, it's not going to pull up the tree. We need stability. We need to know that you're rock solid with us.
I think that's even more important than I think other people realize. Because if you are going to get married and you really believe in sickness and in health, there are going to be ebbs and flow of that sickness and health. And I've suffered with my health for like 12 years. And there have been moments where for over a year, I couldn't go to a restaurant. I couldn't eat sugar for more than a year. Wow. My husband, you just saw him. He's got a scar on his face. Yeah. He just found out he had skin cancer. And the doctor called him. I didn't realize, I'm working. So the doctor calls him, tells him the news. He then has to go straight on set to shoot something. Wow. So he goes on set and his producer asks him a question and he just burst into tears. I was like, what's happening? Like, I was so shocked. And so I came on set and I saw him cry. And I was like, as the woman, what does the man want? Does he want me to just let him have his emotion? Or does he want me to come and nurture him? I wasn't sure. So I just asked him, instead of guessing, I just said, do you want me to come and give you a hug? Yeah. And he goes, yeah, it's okay. Yeah. So I go on camera and I give him a hug. Now, what I didn't know is he'd just been diagnosed with skin cancer. I have no concept of that, so I don't realize. But his producer was asking him about Till Death Do Us Part, and that's what sparked it. And he had just watched a video with Michael J. Fox, I believe, who has Parkinson's. And his wife is standing next to him, holding his hand. And in that moment, he burst into tears on camera. And what he said to me after was, babe, I realized I may have multiple skin cancers. So that means I may have multiple scars on my face. And I asked myself the question whether you would still love me. And what his results were, of course she does. It doesn't matter how many scars you have, your wife's in it for the long haul. And so as we talk about in sickness and health and the vulnerability of knowing, I'm going to share my life with this man. It's everything that you're talking about. It's being able to feel safe in someone's arms when you're at your weakest and know they're never going to use it against you and they're never going to judge you.
Absolutely. That's powerful.
Coming up.
I'm always comparing myself, and then I have a perspective about you that says you would rather be with someone like Joe than me, and how can I live up to that?
Mornings can get so busy that you don't even have time to wash your face. You barely have time to brush your teeth. So as a woman, the last thing that you're thinking about is how to take care of your skin. But of course, the thing that we care probably one of the most things about is our skin. So I want to talk to you about One Skin. Guys, it is so damn simple. All you have to do is wash your face with this bad boy and then moisturize with this one. It's so simple. It's made my life so easy, so fast, and I feel so damn proud of myself because I'm actually taking care of myself and my skin, so I feel good. Get 15% off with coupon code LISA at oneskin.co. That's 15% off oneskin.co with code LISA. So go check out OneSkin, nice and easy. all you working mothers, working women, busy women, whatever you're doing, you don't have the time, OneSkin is the cure. Go check them out.
First of all, I think Tom is amazing. And I think you're amazing as well.
Thank you.
Your sensitivity in that moment, first of all, you saw him. No one knows your husband like you know your husband. You saw him. But the restraint, because you wanted to bust onto that set and say, baby, come here. You know what I mean? Come here, you know. But the restraint to recognize that your good intention may violate his vulnerability. That was very, very insightful because in that moment, we don't know the news. The news is tough. Men, we like to be in control. It's not our favorite thing to break down on camera. Okay, let me just tell you, I got Terry thinking about that and I sucked, as you described, I sucked it up because we don't like to do that, you know, but I could have let it go even when you told the story. But to be sensitive enough to say, teach me how to love you in this moment. My response is love, but depending on where you are, it may not come across as love. It may come across as something else. And so, first of all, that sensitivity in that moment, and I think that it was a divine inspiration, but that sensitivity in that moment was everything.
I'm gonna be honest, the first time I saw my husband actually cry in real life, I was paralyzed. I'd been taught a Greek Orthodox, very dominant Greek father.
Yeah.
He never cried growing up. And so the first time I saw my husband cry, I didn't know what to do. So now imagine he's maybe already got some judgment or fear about showing his wife that he cries. Now he cries and his wife freezes. I'm not necessarily teaching him that he's got a safe place to show that emotion.
Yeah. We try all these new tricks on our person from a place of deficit. I want him to be vulnerable. And so I'm so focused on his vulnerability that I'm missing the 18 million things that makes this person my person. The roots, the experiences, what we've overcome, you know. And so a lot of times we major in the minors in a relationship. Now you're psychoanalyzing me, and that's another don't do it. You know, don't watch an episode of Brene Brown and now all of a sudden, I love and adore, but don't watch an episode, now you're Brene Browning me, because it threatens our sense of control. And now I'm always comparing myself, and then I have a perspective about you that says you would rather be with someone like Joe than me, and how can I live up to that? And that's when things can get really crazy. And I don't want to go too far down a rabbit hole, but now I'm probably going to cheat because you just told me that I can never please you, which means that sooner or later this is going to end. And so if I have rejection issues, which a lot of times men do, people do in general, then I'm going to reject you before you reject me. And I don't want you to take responsibility for him cheating, but I'm telling you, there's certain things you can say that will push them to infidelity, because how can I ever win you if I'm not that? And so, and there's somebody out there that's not gonna do that. And now, because I'm needy, I need somebody to see me as admirably as you're seeing who you're comparing me to.
This is one of the sticking points. I personally have a fascination. It still is very hard for me to wrap my head around, and maybe it's naivety, I'll admit that, to wrap my head around, and I understand women also cheat, but that a man can say, I love you. I will do anything for you. Let's have kids. And they encourage the wife to have children. And the wife's, breastfeeding the baby, and then they go and they cheat.
Yeah.
They've made a commitment, they've made a vow, whether you're religious or not, you stand up in front of God, you sign a contract, if you will, you've committed your life to this person.
Yeah.
And yet you don't have the control. I understand there's the impulse, the attractiveness, but the decision to then cross that line, the decision to betray your wife or your girlfriend. And I still find it very difficult to accept that a man can say, I truly love you, you're the most important thing in the world to me, and then go and break her heart.
Yeah. Men are fantastic at compartmentalization. So it can be absolutely true that I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I don't want to have a family or come home to anyone else but you. That is all true. However, I'm needy. And there may be some ill or unprocessed areas in my soul that have produced a need that I don't even want to share with you. In fact, I don't even want it from you, but it's a need that I have not resolved. And in my compartmentalization, my thinking, I'm being that person, my thinking is what she doesn't know doesn't have the power to hurt her. This is my secret. And I am responsible in how and it's wrong, but I'm giving you
I just want the honesty, thank you.
And I'm responsible in how I navigate it to ensure that she isn't hurt because she doesn't know. And I'm over here and I've got guilt about it. I'm battling my own demons about it. But at the same time, just like a drug, I am getting something from it that then in turn makes me show up as an even greater husband at home, because to a certain degree, I'm really thankful for you and I'm thankful that we're together. So you've got that. I think it's natural to say, what's wrong with me if he cheated on me? A lot of times it has literally nothing to do with you. You're like, well, how can you say it has nothing to do with me? We're in a relationship and everything. I get that. But this individual is your soulmate, but he's also a soul. And there could be a part of him that doesn't negate the rest of him that you're just not privy to, and it's his battles. Now, it is a decision. And you have the idea of self-control. So let's take decision for a moment. Decision means that thought goes into it. For me, I don't cheat on my wife. Of course, there's always opportunity, but I don't. The reason why I don't is not because I'm not tempted, and what I mean by tempted is I have eyes. I have eyes and I can pick up things. And so all of the options are available.
And just because you're married, it doesn't mean that you're blind to attractiveness. Like I'm so with you there.
Exactly. And that's just a reality. You can't, that song, I've only got eyes for you. That's wonderful, but you have eyes.
But to be honest, also,
Right,
I said
right.
to my husband, it's way more romantic that you find hundreds of thousands of women attractive and you still chose me, than you find no woman attractive except me.
That's good. That's really good. I have a lot of reasons why I don't cheat. Even though most people could, when there's trust, that means if there's trust, you can get away with stuff. But I'm thinking about, which isn't that something, the more trust you have, the more freedom you have.
That's so true.
It's several things. For me, one is, I don't want to violate that trust. You have to earn trust. And the last thing that I want to do is have her change the way she looks at me. She knows that I've been with somebody else. Even though we've got this incredible marriage, incredible covenant, we're with each other, we talk, we communicate, we got all this. And then for me to, in a moment of decision, right, to violate that. And now, will she forgive me? Totally. She's that type of person. She'll forgive me. But will she ever look at me the same again? Will I create an insecurity in the relationship, an insecurity in her, an insecurity? I don't want to damage what I've been blessed with. So one of the things that I do is I play this scenario out. Okay, you do this. You're gonna have a wonderful 30 minutes. Okay, 34. That's gonna be wonderful.
30 years of hell after that.
30 years of hell, and then, but the moment that you're done, reality sets in. So temptation is like it's this seductive world and moment, and it's got all these promises in it and everything. It's just, it's amazing. You see it, and it's sunny and the beach and the waves and the ocean and the music and all that is there. And then 30 minutes later, it's storming.
It's a horror movie.
You got zombies running on the beach and you're like, oh my God. So I'm looking at the after. So I'm thinking about, wait, is my marriage worth this? Okay, so maybe we stay together, but the trust is gone, right? She believes in me. She sees me in such a way that she doesn't even think about it. That's huge for me. And now I'm gonna go and violate that for what? And what I've learned, and I can say a lot about this, but what I've learned about temptation is that if you weather it, it'll pass. You know, not only will you not do something stupid, but your self-confidence and your sense of self-worth and your belief in yourself will go to a whole nother level, not because the opportunity was never there, but because it was there and you proved to yourself when no one was looking that your quality, that's worth saying no.
And that's so beautiful. Reason 732 I wanted you on the show is to really show what a wonderful, pure-hearted man looks like.
Wow.
Because I do episodes a lot on the toxic man, and I really think it's important to also showcase how men can really be like yourself, where you think through it. It's still very hard for me to understand that a guy can say, I love you, kiss you good morning, kiss you good night, kiss the babies, and then go out that same evening and then cheat on you.
There is another aspect of it. There are a myriad of reasons, but there's another aspect of it, and that is addiction. For me, it was. I had my first sexual experience when I was 12 years old. A girl took me in the garage in my grandmother's house, and I was flirting, because in the neighborhood, that's what you do. You whistle at girls, and she was like, oh, you want to whistle? And she was older than me. She took me in my grandmother's garage. And that was the first time I had an encounter, and I can literally, it was almost like my eyes changed and I was addicted. But the point that I'm getting at is sometimes it can be addiction. Sometimes he can't say no. Sometimes he's a good person, he's got the right intentions, but either there's an addiction in place where he just has to, he can't help himself. He's a nymphomaniac or has a sex addiction. Sometimes it's not that simple, and it's about him and his little dark secret and dark life, and he needs to be rescued. And I don't know, I think that if you're in a relationship like that, you have to assess whether or not you're chosen to walk that journey out. He may never change. Are you good if he never changes? He loves you, he treats you well, but he's cheating. Of course, qualifying whether or not this is a low self-esteem issue, because sometimes you don't feel worthy enough to have better, or you don't think that there is better out there. But to your point, there is.
That's what I was going to ask you, actually. So that first time, you had said earlier, right, 30 minutes is amazing, and then you leave. And so how do you justify? Because in all honesty, and maybe I'm just projecting, the guilt would break me.
Yeah.
Break me. So how do you somewhat then be okay with constantly then lying? Because there's the thing of the once, there's a whole other thing that you're doing it for years, and that becomes a spider's web of constant lies.
Well, you have a perspective that you're not alone in this, that this is what men do, and in some circles it is. And in some cases the wives know, but the lifestyle is what the lifestyle is, or they have really low self-esteem, and they might even think, it's not just the men that say this is what men do. I know some women that say, men cheat. That's just what it is. You live with it. You get what you can out of it. Some of them cheat a little bit too, but it's kind of this thing. So I know guys that literally do not think that it is possible to be in a monogamous, faithful relationship. They literally do not believe it's possible, which is a pretty convenient belief, to be honest with you. But their dad wasn't faithful. The guys that they run around is faithful. And so they live in this little microcosm of unfaithfulness that causes them to believe the whole world is like that. But it isn't. And I know guys that are faithful, that are serious. I know guys that will not, and it's not that they don't have options, they just have integrity and character. So you justify it by saying, all men do it. and you justify it sometimes by saying, hey, I'm paying the bills, I'm taking care of this, I'm taking care of that, I am 75, 80% pretty doggone good. This 20% is my issue, but I'm not bringing it home, I'm handling it, and if it doesn't blow up in my face, then I think I'm okay. And then the lying is just a part of it's a part of the compromise. I am so far removed from that way of thinking, but it's good that I'm talking about it because it helps me really connect with people who are still there. But I think it's important for me to let people know that you can change. And that's another thing. You can change.
This is another reason I love this discussion is because you have been both.
Yeah.
So having been both men, the toxic man and the green flag man, I'm going to call you. So having been both, what was the difference in the way you saw women?
Oh God, that's beautiful. So I didn't realize that I was part of the problem. The red me was so consumed with my desire that I didn't even stop to think about the effects of my actions, which is interesting because I've always had a good heart and I've always loved people, but sometimes your desire, your need, right, legitimate or illegitimate, your need blinds you from seeing who's being affected on the other side of you fulfilling that need. So I think that once I started seeing the person who was on the other side of that pain, then I started seeing my action and I'm like, oh my God, like I never thought for a second that me satisfying me would negatively impact somebody. I never even thought about that because you're so consumed with what you want. Oh God, this is bringing back some stuff. I remember I went on an apology tour. After I had this epiphany,
Did you really?
Oh yeah, I called everybody that I can get into contact with and I said, I'm so sorry. I was a selfish butthole and I'm sorry. And there's one person in particular that I was especially sorry because like a drug addict, I was manipulative and I made all these promises and and I said, this is real and this is gonna last and everything because I was so consumed with what I wanted.
So you knew at the time it was all manipulation, you knew what you wanted and you were just doing what it took to get it?
Yes and no. I'll say no first because it's almost like, I think, I've never been on drugs, but someone who's on drugs, I don't think that they even think about what they're saying. Their goal is to get, by any means necessary to get, so they didn't even take time to say, I'm getting ready to be manipulative or I'm getting ready to lie. None of that matters. Everything about them is channeled. All their gifts, all their talent, all the divine stuff that God gives us to do good is now channeled toward this desire that we want. Yeah. So I say no and yes. No in that it wasn't conscious, but now yes in that it was doing whatever it took to get this. I didn't care. It didn't matter. I would sell my soul. It didn't matter what I said. I just wanted to get to this end goal. And I remember one very, very special person in particular and never called her again. And she didn't deserve that. And I think that for me, hearing through the grapevine how hurt she was by it, humanized that experience for me. And so I started seeing women differently.
Can I ask you what you said to her? Sorry, because the reason why I ask is that a lot of my community have had those relationships where a guy was very manipulative. And while it is important to make sure that no woman lies their own emotional healing on a guy apologizing, because now you're giving your power away again to the guy for you to heal, I think it is somewhat beautiful that there are men out there that have reached out when they truly regret it. Yeah. So what did you say? Because I think that this may be therapeutic for a lot of women.
I bumped into her at some event and I looked, I was like, oh my God, that's her. And I was in a meeting, I left that meeting and I called her, I said, hey, I know you probably hate me. I just need 2 minutes. You didn't deserve that. And I told her how amazing a person she was. but that I was too blind to see it at the time, and I was too consumed with my own brokenness. And I said, I don't expect you to forgive me, but I needed to tell you that crap, that thing right there, it was terrible, and you did not deserve that. I don't believe in regret, because I think that regret is charging a current you, it's charging the green you with something that a red you has done, and I've done way more good since then, particularly 2 women and 4 women since then. It's not a justification, but for me to regret, to have remorse, absolutely. To wish it never happened, totally. But to regret, there's no redemption in regret. Because I'm not talking to this Touré, because this Touré never did it. He didn't do it. He would never do it, literally. But that one did. And I'm glad he's gone. And that's why I think, like, in these times that women are doing remarkable things. And I don't think that it's just because we had a movement. I think that it's divinely orchestrated, you know, for the full emergence and the acceptance and the affirmation and the value and the power and everything that God has placed in women. It's now. This is not, you know, I'm grateful that we marched, you know, and we had this, and I believe that helped. I'm not saying that, but this is different. This is not human. This is the time for the full expression of the woman who has been the most persecuted people group on the planet. And now she's finding her voice. She's finding her strength. She's, you know, we've had some hiccups along the way.
You can say that.
You know, we've had some hiccups along the way, but in its purest form, it's powerful. I think men are starting to get it. Some men are starting to get it. They're starting to see it. I mean, I'm one of them. I literally put, to a certain degree, my trajectory on hold to get behind Sarah and to push her and to pray for her and to encourage her and to help to facilitate what was happening in her life. And that has been not only redemptive, it's been divine. And it's just an interesting time.
Coming up.
I think it's being whole in your perspective about what sex is. I don't believe that sex is meant to be a frivolous thing.
My morning routine is everything to me because it sets my day up to be able to go and freaking crush it. But let's face it, sometimes habits and routines can get a little boring, especially when it comes to food. All I end up eating is eggs and bacon for breakfast until I discovered the amazing chocolate protein powder from Bilyeu Valley. Now, they actually come in different flavors, but I can't believe that I get to eat this for breakfast. I get my 13 grams of protein that I need in the morning, and I also get to have chocolate for breakfast. It sets my day up to be absolutely amazing. I get all the energy. It doesn't have gluten, it doesn't have soy, it doesn't have dairy, it doesn't upset my stomach, but it still has the protein and the flavor that allows me to go and enjoy my day and freaking crush it. And right now, guys, they're actually offering buy one, get one free. So you can just click the link below and get yours right now. Cheers.
I think that's what's fascinating is that to me makes you more of a man, more of a stronger man, because you don't have the insecurity of what if she surpasses me. The fact that, and my husband is exactly the same. When I started my show, he already had a show. He had millions of followers. And I was like, I'll start my YouTube channel. And he's like, babe, one day you're going to pass me. You're better looking than me. You're better at talking than me. And he was like encouraging it. There was not an ounce of fear of or ego involved in that. So as you say that, where you back Sarah, and I've seen you together. I mean, you guys are amazing. Like you truly do live that. I've seen it in real life. But there are too many scenarios where I've heard where the guy, they get with, oh God, who was just telling me the story? Oh, Yvette Nicole Brown. So I was just interviewing love her.
Yeah.
Just interviewing Yvette Nicole Brown, and she was telling me this one story about how she gets nominated. And behind the scenes, her boyfriend is so insecure. He's freaking out. He's trying to diminish her because he needs to feel powerful. As soon as they get in the car and drive for the awards, he grabs her hand and tries to hold her hand to walk out. So there are those two dynamics where you get a guy that can uplift you, give you wings. It can make you more powerful. You can fly higher than you ever thought you could do alone.
Yes.
But if you get a guy that is toxic, that is dead weight, in essence, it's weight around your ankle that just drags you deeper and deeper into the ocean.
So my first wife, who's a great person, by the way, I was the front person. And then she gradually moved to the back and then ultimately disappeared. So much so that when we finally did get a divorce, most people didn't even know who she was because she had disappeared. The old me would have totally, I can't even imagine. I would have been completely toxic. You know, if she would have been the one, I would have been just salty and then trying to dominate her, you know, behind the scenes. But now I do, to your earlier point, I do see that as what being a man is all about. I believe it's about creating an environment to be able to look at that star shine and believe that maybe I had a little something to do with it. That makes me feel good, you know? And then to see her, and then Sarah is a remarkable soul. And to see Sarah have a kid early and work and fight and do all that, she doesn't have a bigger cheerleader than me. You know, for me, it is redefining what it means to be a man. You know, there are two in the Bible, there are two Josephs in the Bible. One of them went through a lot, but he ultimately becomes very rich and he ruled all of Egypt and he had it going on. And everyone wants to be like that Joseph, right? He's rich, he's powerful, he's running things, he's a business guy. So when you get in church settings, they're like, yeah, I want to be a Joseph, you know. But then there was this other Joseph, and he wasn't rich, but he facilitated an environment for a woman named Mary. And that woman named Mary was carrying something that would change the world. And if it weren't for Joseph, who had to claim her so that she wouldn't be ostracized, according to the story, for being pregnant, he had to create a space for her, and what was in her was so massive that it changed the world. That's how I feel. I feel like I'm the other type of Joseph. You know, now I'm blessed. I got the other Joseph thing going too a little bit, but for me, I take pride in having the identity as someone who was a part of, and is still a part of, facilitating this woman who's got world-changing capacity within her. I feel my value in this context is best utilized by cheering her, you know?
I was brought up thinking that as a woman, the man runs the family, he's the dominant one, and you sit in the shadows as the woman. My grandmother lived in a tiny village in the mountains of Cyprus. Growing up, she would cook for 20 people, 30 people, the entire family. And she never would eat with a family. Her belief was she serves everybody first. So she serves everybody, she puts the food out. She only eats once everyone's done.
Wow.
So now you can imagine, I've seen that with my own eyes, where the woman gives up everything for the man, gives up everything for the family. So I thought that being a confident, dominant woman meant that you would never find a guy that would appreciate and would help it. They would only try to diminish it because they found it threatening. So in my own marriage, as I started to evolve and build the confidence myself, there was a part of me that did worry about whether my husband would be threatened. And I just asked him. And that was when he was like, are you joking? He was like, I would love to see you shine and I would do anything to make that happen. So I'm here for you. I see the same with you and Sarah. And she's a freaking powerhouse.
Oh yeah, and she loves you too.
Oh my God, she's amazing. Strong woman. Not ashamed to talk about the realities of her life. Gets up on stage. When she ripped off her wig,
Right.
I was like, she didn't know I was giving a standing ovation in my house. Like, how amazing that confidence is. Now, I hadn't met you yet. And so when I saw you guys, I was like, this is the most amazing dynamic where you guys cheer each other on.
Oh, yeah.
There doesn't seem like there's any competition. And you really do fan the flames of each other's purpose.
Yeah.
And I love that. And so thank you for taking me through that. That was so beautiful to see what a great man can really support a strong woman.
Oh, yeah.
I'd actually like to now move on a little to something that I've heard you talk about, sexual wholeness.
Yeah. Oh,
So
yeah.
this is one of the things that my community very much, again, as we're trying to understand men more and more, you talk about sexual wholeness. What does that mean to you? What does sexual wholeness look like?
Oh, wow. Well, I'll start with my interpretation of sexual wholeness. I think it's being whole in your perspective about what sex is. I don't believe that sex is meant to be a frivolous thing. But I think it's deeper than that. I think it was always meant to be much deeper than fun. I believe that there's obviously enjoyment in it, but I believe that it was designed to draw two people together in a way that transcends the physical and really gets into a oneness with that person. And so I think it is misuse might be too strong of a term, but I will say it certainly is a reduced and minimized use if you just take this dynamism that's designed to really bring you and your mate to this soul level oneness. And when you join yourself to someone intimately through sex, I don't necessarily think you can just walk away from it and that was that and move on. I think that there's always going to be some, because you're sharing something that's deeper than the physical. Think about it. You're opening yourself up. You know, you're opening yourself up to that person physically, and I believe spiritually, because it is emotional. You know, it is, you're engaged. There's nothing like it.
Oh, I actually have a quote from you before you go on. Spiritually transmitted disease.
Yes. STD.
Yeah.
Yeah, the STD. You've probably heard of people who are in an intimate relationship, physically intimate relationship with someone, and they know that it's not healthy for them, and their mind is convinced that they should leave, but they can't. And they may not like the person, they may not like the way the person thinks, or they would never marry this person, but they're still drawn back to this individual for intimacy. And that's because it's a deep spiritual, emotional, psychological thing that takes place that locks you in. And that's an STD. It's not, you may not, get some of the symptoms of, a sexually transmitted disease. Why can't I leave this relationship? Why? I know it's right. Maybe I'm married and I'm in this extra relationship, this, extramarital relationship. Or maybe I'm not married, but I know that this person isn't good for me, but I have to continue to have sex with this person. Well, it's because there's a tie, a bond that has been created through this intimacy, because it was designed to create a bond. The bond isn't a problem, it's just when you bond with the wrong person. And now your purpose needs you to leave, your identity needs you to leave, your life, your money needs you to leave, everything needs you to leave, but you can't leave and you're trying to figure out why. Well, it's because you've tied yourself. It wasn't just fun, it wasn't just sex. It was something deeper and spiritual. And so I think that sexual wholeness is about, if you've been through that process, getting out of it, finding a way to redefine sex in your mind and breaking the agreements that you've had with, partners or scenarios like that, and then renewing your mind around it. And it can be a really beautiful thing.
Oh, I love that. You said earlier that you fall asleep with your head on Sarah's lap every night.
Yeah. Yeah.
That really hit me. It's so beautiful. For a woman now that's listening, because my community is mostly women, that wants to get to the point where the guy can lay his head on their lap as well, what do you think is one or two most, let's say, fundamental things that a woman needs to know about a guy?
That softness is still sexy. That, you mentioned Sarah, and she is a powerhouse, and she gets up on that stage, she turns into somebody else. And I mean, there are moments where she literally beats on her chest,
Does she really?
Yeah, she gets pumped. And that's all wonderful. That's part of her personality. But she is not only leather, she's also lace. And in a world that oftentimes celebrates being a boss chick. Yeah, you can be a boss. I want you to be a boss in your own way, but you don't have to be a boss in the bedroom. You know, that should be the one place where you don't have the responsibility of being a boss. Here you can just be a babe. And so I think that softness is important. I want a soft pillow. Life is already hard enough. It's every day, you've got challenges. I mean, you're running companies, I got some news today. I got to fire somebody, someone really, really critical. And life is hard. You're experiencing things. You got, legal stuff that you're always looking at, you're watching. And when I get home, I just want to lay my head down in a soft place. And that doesn't make you any less of a boss or any less amazing. It actually makes you more, because now you are also willing to be my soft place, and I'll be your soft place too.
Do you think that that's something that a lot of men fear? Because you're not the first person to tell me that. To be like, I love that my woman's a badass.
Yeah,
I love that she's strong. I love watching her say, like, I've had many men behind the scenes of my badass friends say that, like, I love watching her go do her thing. But almost every man has also said, but she can't get too hard. And that's actually one of my own stories. I was a stay-at-home wife for 8 years, supported my husband, cooked and cleaned for him. Every need he ever had, I basically met it because I was a stay-at-home wife. I then turned into Build and Quest Nutrition. It grew at 57,000%. So I go from shipping bars on my living room floor to then building, at the time I had 40 employees underneath me, and half of them were ex-convicts because we were incompetent. And so we just put the call out on the streets. We don't care if you're an ex-convict, come and work for us if you're willing to work hard.
Massive.
But now imagine, I'm 5'1", and I am now the boss of these 6'5" guys with tats and teardrop tattoos on their eye, like actual teardrop. That's not a made up story. He actually had a teardrop on his eye. So now I have to lead my company, I have to build it. So I have to learn the skills in order to navigate being a boss to 40 men. So I got hard until one day my husband pulled me aside and he's like, baby, I love you. I understand, I get it, but you can't bring it home. I love that my wife is soft and I married a woman that has that nurturing element. So going back to you now, it is shocking how many men say that. But I love it. I just want the honesty. Like, I truly just want the honesty. And so do you find that actually is happening quite a bit, where women in the workforce are getting harder and it's now part of maybe the problem in certain relationship dynamics in this kind of era that we're in?
For sure, because they bring it home. Because work as a CEO or CFO, whatever you might be, a founder of a company, you are in relationship, right? So you're in relationship with your team, you're in relationship with your vendors, you're in relationship with your investors. There is a relationship, and it's a professional relationship. And oftentimes, if you have 40 employees, which are the people that you're in relationship with the most, you can be a kind manager and a kind CEO, but you're still a boss. And so you are communicating like a boss. You can be gracious, but it is very directive.
Well, I'm going to be honest, I wasn't gracious at all.
Oh,
so
okay,
I want to be honest with you. Only because, just like what you were saying about how you've had to learn, I didn't bloody know what I was doing.
Right.
So I was like, just scream and shout, that's going to work.
Right.
Like, the louder you are, Lisa, the better. So I just want to make sure that I'm very honest about I wasn't gracious in my way at the time.
Well, we all grow in leadership and what it takes to be. We've read our John Maxwell books and other books. It took time, because I was certainly a level 1 leader at first. But it's relationship, right? As a boss, your relationship. So then you come home after you've done that, and now the wife has forgotten to take the CEO hat off. And so now she's talking to her husband like he is one of the employees, or he is tasked with doing something, and you don't even know that you didn't switch it. You don't know, and it works the other way, because I've had Sarah tell me a couple times, like, the CEO needs to clock out. But again, with this emergence of women bosses. And you have to be that. And it's harder for women because now, at least in your mind it is, but now you have to be even more. I mean, I've had handshakes and I was like, hey, easy.
With a woman.
With a woman, like easy. So you have to be that more. And sometimes I can imagine that they forget to take that off and that they're home, and that can be challenging because it's hard to flip the switch.
It is. And what's interesting, as this topic comes up more and more, the more I talk to my girlfriends who run their own businesses, entrepreneurs, I talk to them like, yeah, Lisa, I just want to be soft when I'm at home. Like, I'm hearing a lot of women that also, they want to be freaking badasses just like me, but I do. I want to be a softie when I'm around my husband. Yeah. I want to be a ball of mush, knowing that I can handle myself if I need to, like I'm not weak. But is knowing that I can be soft around him, and I've enjoyed it. But to your point, it's the on-off, and it's the way analogy I like to say is I've learned how to do it like a dimmer instead of a switch.
Ah, that's great. Oh, that's beautiful.
Right? Because it's like I couldn't do it as a switch because it's emotions, it's chemicals. If you've got the energy running through your body, and now you're asking me to be nurturing in my estrogen and my progesterone and start to, it's a very different chemicals in my body. So how do I actively change the chemicals in my body? And so I found a way that takes time, but when I go upstairs, I take my jewelry off. I take my hair, put my hair up, take my makeup off, and I put soft pajamas on.
Wow.
So it's the dimmer versus the light switch. But the fascinating thing is that I thought as a woman, you had to be one or the other, nurturing or dominant. And as the man, you had to be one or the other. But what I love in men like yourself, where you can hold space for both, but you can still tell the woman what you need and still be heard by it. So you can say to Sarah, hey, you got your hat on right now. And I think that over time, it allows women to feel seen, to navigate, to not make us feel like we have to choose one avenue or another. And so I just, after that was a really long way of me saying, I just applaud you. So thank you for showcasing that is what men can truly do and be, because it allows us women to also then not feel like we're battling our partners with the things, the dreams that we have of where we want to go in life and how we want to show up. So
yeah, I never wanted to be a dream killer, a dream stiller. I remember when Sarah first moved to LA, and I'm a protector by nature. And we had our first house we lived in was in Encino, and she was new to driving in LA and everything, and I was like all over her, like, babe, you can't go there. And then one day she said to me, she was like, babe, I feel like I just want to make I want to be able to make some mistakes. I feel like you're pressuring me. I just, if I make a mistake, but I want to make that mistake. And there was something in her voice. And I said, oh God, I never want you to feel trapped. I never want you to feel, and I remember getting out of the way.
Do you know what it is that you picked up on?
Yeah, I saw she wasn't Sarah Jakes Roberts at the time. She had written her first book, but none of the speaking stuff had taken off at all. And I felt a bigness in her that my overprotection was caging. It was like, if I didn't make a decision then, either what was in her was gonna die or our marriage is gonna die. It was gonna be one or the other. And I sensed it. It was like she was crying out for freedom. And in my protection, and I felt I had a legitimate concern. Hey, baby, you can't go over that. I know you're from Texas and Dallas, but here somebody will rob you, you know. And which was also my wiring from growing up in Watts also. But to your point, it was not wanting to stand in the way of not wanting to clip her wings, because I have a fundamental belief that everyone has wings and everybody can fly. And that was a fundamental belief that I had going in, and I saw her wings pushing up against my behavior, and I got out of the way.
What a pivotal moment that could have been.
Yeah. Wow, yeah. Wow, I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Toure, You're amazing. Thank you
Wow.
so much for coming. And
Oh, yeah.
it was really important that I showcase what it looks like to be in healthy relationships, what it looks like to be around good men, what good men look like, what they stand for, how they think. And so when I reached out to you, you didn't even hesitate. So thank you so much for being here. If people want to follow you, all the amazing things, you have an event, like all the things you're doing, where can people go?
They can go to toureroberts.com or follow me on all the social media platforms at Toure Roberts.
All right. Ladies, ladies, ladies. I read the comments. I see what you guys are writing. And love can be beautiful. With the right person, it can lift you up. And like I said, with the wrong person, it can break you. And so it's all about identifying who's that right person. Who's the person that once you've built your self-esteem and your worth, that you can give yourself over to and trust and be vulnerable and know that they're not going to abuse it, that they're going to blow the wind under your wings to give you flight. So guys, please do go follow Touré. If you're not subscribed, smash that subscribe button down there and be the hero of your own life. Peace out.
That was awesome.
If you want to learn about how men really think, and if you want to connect on a deeper level with him, then watch this episode right here with Jason Wilson. As someone who coaches men in masculinity, help us women finally understand, why does a man